pleasure for me as a longtime fan to be sitting here with Aaron Gray.
Here with Larry Hama.
We're talking with Kevin J. Anderson, best-selling author.
Mr. Neil Adams.
I am here with David Brent.
Axel Alonso, editor.
Shadow Stevens. And Devil's Comic-Con with John Delancey.
Tom King.
Kevin Conroy.
Free comic book day.
Denise Crosby.
PopCon Pop Expo.
Here on location at Star Wars Celebration.
Cafe Expo, talking for our second time with Gil Gerard.
Wichita, Kansas at Time Eddie.
Producer David Gerald.
I've got Eric Flint.
Are here at Smallville Comic-Con.
Wizard World St. Louis.
VillageCon in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Michael Lombardi.
We were talking with Alan Dean.
Quincy Allen.
Suzanne Lambden.
Of Starlog Magazine, Mr. Kerry Oakwood.
Chris Sami.
Landon Lee. Dave Schwartz. Mano Intirami. Jason Aaron.
This is Sci-Fi for Me, your portal to the science fiction multiverse.
The Immortal Mask, a 1970 superhero crime noir adventure that follows a retired soldier who is given a Covenant interview with a death row inmate. What he learns from the interview thrusts him into Atlanta's shadowy underworld. He'll have to utilize his military training to survive from being hunted for the information that could topple the most powerful ruling class in the city. This is not a pre-order or a crowdfunding campaign. Get your books now at Denali's.com.
Hi, and welcome to the Kickstarter. I am Roland Mann, and I'm the chief cook and bottle washer at Silverline Comics, a genre-spanning independent comic and graphic novel publisher. We like making comics, so I'm going to shut up talking. Make mine Silverline.
"25 seconds to curtain, folks."
Your favorite podcast, it's Critical Blast.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brent T. Larson. Brent, how you doing tonight, man?
You know, I'm doing pretty well. I feel really embarrassed because I was supposed to be here Monday and just got.
You know what? It's okay. Aaron made everyone forget about it.
Oh, and I just forget everything I just said. I don't know. So
yeah. Aaron made everybody forget about it on Tuesday, so no one even knows that it happened.
Okay, I'm relieved. Now I'm happy again. I'm doing just fine. How are you doing?
Doing great, man. So I'm watching this Kickstarter here, and you guys are close to funding with 10 days to go.
Yep.
Plenty of time. It's only like a couple of $100 now. Would love to see that happen tonight for everybody watching. So, hit the Kickstarter link below the video. Get out there and, back Silverline like we always do. But I'm having deja vu, man, because I'm like, I remember this book. We talked about this book.
We did.
And I fully expected this to be issue number 2.
Yeah.
So where are we? What happened here?
Well, if you remember, we talked about it the night. This is, I want to say it was around November 9th or 10th of last year. And a huge hurricane was hitting the coast of Florida. So, yeah, great memories. I could say something clever like the hurricane just blew that Kickstarter right away and we had to start all over again. But basically for different reasons, Silverline had to discontinue that Kickstarter and trim it down a little bit. So that's why we are starting again. But yes, it will still be for the first issue of CAPETOWN. So.
A natural disaster will have that impact on you. And they're happening all over the place right now. So it's kind of weird. It'd be a good time to launch an alien invasion book, though.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Walters in the chat, dropping by to like, share, and say hi. Appreciate that, Mike. Thank you so much. So give us again, because we have to start all over again, the high level pitch on what CAPETOWN is about, because this is not a bio comic about South Africa.
No. Although, no, I can't spin that. Okay, so yes, it's a story about a city that is basically cosplay friendly, and therefore anyone can be a superhero if they want to be. And a few of them actually gained powers through means that I explain in my story. But then they all disappeared. And for a while, there were no heroes at all until the arrival of 2 new heroes. One is Recon and one is Seismic. And they don't like each other, but they realize that they are both on the same kind of mission that they've taken on for themselves, which is to find out what actually did happen to all of the superheroes. And
I like their names specifically because Seismic sounds like a guy who would actually have powers, and Recon sounds like a guy who just kind of goes out and watches for crime. But it's the other way around.
Actually, there's a little of both. And
okay, because it looks like, Recon, they said in the video, he's bulletproof. I'm like, okay.
Yes. There was, okay, let me see if I can sum this up. Basically, the city's name is Capernaum, and it's like I said, a place where people just like to dress up as superheroes. They also like to sometimes dress up as villains, and the city, the city government, Chamber of Commerce embraced this whole idea as basically kind of a way to create an identity for the city, to have people act out superhero fights, kind of basically, I refer to it in the book as a mixture of Shakespeare in the Park and wrestling. And so the way people would just pretend to be heroes. And in one incident, one of the villains created an elixir that would give people superpowers and threatened to release it into into the water supply of the city, and was genuinely surprised when they didn't stop him in time. And it released this chemical into the water, and some people started to develop some low-level powers. There's nobody who's Hulk power, got that level of power. No Superman, but there are people who have gained some invulnerability. A couple who can fly a little bit.
I can light cigarettes with the tip of my finger.
Yes, exactly. Right. And those people decided to get together and create their own super team, which was really more just of the cosplay stuff. But that caused some villains to get together and kind of band together. And this is all backstory. And they had a smackdown that actually ended up making part of the whole city uninhabitable. And this cost the city billions. And then so the villains were all shipped away. And soon after, it appears that many of the heroes retired. They sent, because they have secret identities. It's kind of the nice thing. You don't have to explain to anyone why you're quitting. You just take off the mask and you are someone else. So our story picks up. I want to say it was like 3 years later, where there's no more heroes. People still like to dress up a little bit, but the heroes they love are gone. But there's one guy who works for the city, and he has wanted to be a hero all his life, and he has decided really what you have to do is train. He was one of the kids who had some of these low-level powers and decides that he is going to do it. So the book starts with him. Something that's kind of different about him is he's married. And his wife acts as kind of like a handler for him, helping him go on missions, scoping out police, what are they called? Radio. So where to go. Yeah, policeman. So that was something I put in the book that I thought was kind of fun. I can't remember reading a husband and wife team that was quite like that. And it's kind of fun. And during the course of this, he meets another guy. That was Recon, and he meets this other guy, Seismic, who seems to know more than he lets on about what has happened to all of these missing superheroes. And there's a twist at the end of the first issue, and it's pretty fun. So, yeah, I hope people like it.
I want to get in on that. I keep waiting for that to happen, though. Not necessarily the superpowers part of it, but everything else in science fiction, from getting to the moon to having handheld communicators, we've done it. We've made it happen.
Yeah.
Nobody's gone Batman on us yet. And I'm like, in 80 years, somebody, unless they're so good at it, we don't know they're out there, which is a possibility, I guess.
Well,
but
yeah,
there are cosplayers.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, that would be the entry. I remember part of the reason I came up with this idea was when I was a kid, I had friends who wanted to be astronauts. They wanted to be scientists. I wanted to be Batman. And it
was a viable career opportunity.
Yes. My parents tried to dissuade me, and I guess they were successful. It's kind of a bummer. But anyway, but it occurred to me, what if you actually could? Like if I live in Orlando, if I decided I wanted to be a superhero, the first day I dressed up as a superhero, I'd probably be arrested as a perv or someone who, is endangering children or something. Plus, Orlando doesn't, I live in the burbs. There aren't a lot of tall buildings to swing from. Okay, so in other words, if you want to be a superhero, Orlando's not the place to go. Okay, well, what if there was? What if there was a place where if you walked around in costume, people didn't call the cops or think you were weird? They'd want to have their picture taken with you. They would be like, go get them, whoever you are, and treated you kind of like you were a celebrity. I would totally do that. And if I were not skilled in the art of being a crime fighter, well, then I might take some karate classes or maybe get a gun permit and learn how to use guns or whatever it is that could give me a one-up on being a crime fighter. And then I would just try it. And if there were other people around who were thinking the same thing, I'd hang out with them and maybe we'd do it together. The more I talked about it to myself, the more plausible it became. Not like to the point where I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet, but something where I'm just like, you know what? It sounds like it would be a pretty cool way to live. So
there is this movement. We talked about the cosplayers at cons, of course, but there is the real life superhero project where different cities have people who dress up. Now they do like community work and they pass out flyers, keep kids off drugs. They feed the homeless. They're not out there kicking tail.
Right.
But they got some pretty cool costumes, pretty cool names, and they interact on the internet together.
Yeah, exactly. And it sounds some people might look at that as like a ploy or just people who refuse to grow up. But I keep thinking, what if you really did want to help people and you didn't want to be a firefighter and it's really tough to be a cop right now. And you lived in a city that actually said, some low-level vigilanteism is actually not a bad thing. Yeah, it would intrigue me enough to possibly give it a shot. My knees are bad, so maybe I'm past my prime, but I don't know.
Yeah, I can barely make it to the mailbox, let alone run down a villain fleeing with a bag of groceries you didn't pay for. Because that was, okay, yes, when I was even a young teenager, junior high, I took my Champions box set because, it had the nice little sheets where you could design a costume on a body. I'm like, it couldn't get any easier. And I made the costume and I was like, okay, I need someone to sew this. Who can I get to do that? Because I can't sew. I didn't take the same home ec classes Peter Parker took because that kid knew how to not. He didn't just put on a red sweatshirt and some jeans. That kid spent weeks putting, web designs on this.
Well, he wasn't going out on dates, so yeah,
he had plenty of time. But yeah, but then I thought, my town had between 700 and 900 people in it. Just
okay,
not a whole lot going on.
That actually sounds like a fun story. What if you live in a town where you're a superhero, but there's only like 36 people? Yeah. They'll probably figure it out eventually.
It's like, hey, where's Joe? He's never around.
You two at the same time down at the gas and gulp. Yeah.
Yeah. Ultra Lad just showed up and pulled that cow out of the ditch for us, but
where were you? I was running to get help. You always run to get help. Yeah.
You just yell loud enough and the other side of town will hear you.
Huh.
Yeah, we need a Midwestern superhero. He'd almost be like One Punch Man, though. I think all this power and so bored.
Yeah,
there's no challenges.
Just eating that cheese and punching out the peeps. Yeah,
that'd be the way to do it. I'm gonna take the overlay off here, and so I can bring up the Kickstarter. This is the Kickstarter we're talking about, folks. Now, this is a dual Kickstarter. You will have the opportunity to get 2 different books here, but you don't have to get both of them, but you should. Maybe you do have to get both of them. I don't think so. I think there's
get both of them. Silverline markets multiple books at the same time, but that is something that we try to impress on people is you only have to buy one if you want. They're quality work for sure, and if you're interested in
inexpensive
comics, right, it's a good way to support independent comics, but only the ones you want. It's like Liberty Mutual, only pay for one. So
Silverline.
Yes,
we can do that. I'm looking at the cover and knowing the characters, I can't help but notice there's a town's finest feel about this pairing. Is it intentional? I mean, is it significant of something? Like, hey, here's the start of something new, and it begins with these 2 men.
I did not actually have any input in the covers. So we have several, you can see them on the page, several different cover artists. Did Dean do that one? I think.
Yeah, but they're still your characters.
They are. Frankly, when I saw the covers, I was blown away and really just thankful that it wasn't more collages. So there you go.
Yeah, people get tired of the collage covers, but
they're okay every once in a while.
Yeah, you got your variant A covers. Now the variants, they're variant because they're shiny, right? I mean, they're not. They have the same artwork on them, I believe.
I think there's isn't there a foil option in the Kickstarter?
Oh, I know what it is. I'm sitting here looking at the PDFs and such. This is the print comic, and then this is the variant cover.
Right.
Okay. I had just already seen it, so I'm like, why am I seeing it again? Must be something different. That's the A, that's the B, and this is the C cover.
Right.
And I love this. It's a city of heroes. So what is it hiding? And I used that tagline in Twitter to advertise, and people are like, "Is this a comic book based on City of Heroes?" Because there's that game out there.
Yeah, it is a city of heroes. It's not the city of heroes. I suppose there are several cities of heroes. This is one of them. Yes.
Yeah, that's an interesting take too. Is were there any other, or do you even touch on the fact that there were any other towns that said, "Hey, that Cape Town model, that's getting them some tourist money. Maybe we should look into that kind of thing."
I actually lean heavily into the idea that this is the name of the city is Capernaum. That is what Capernaum does. It was the only way to. The city itself did not have a great identity. I think I mentioned that it was the birthplace of a kind of a single malt whiskey that wasn't very popular, but they started to notice that people were having Halloween parades and coming up with their own superhero costumes, and eventually started wearing them all year round. And so the Chamber of Commerce said, "Well, we're like Vegas, except instead of gambling and Celine Dion, we have superheroes." So.
Superheroes. Now Capernaum, that's a biblical city name, I believe.
It is. It's also the only city I know that has CAPE as the first four letters of its name.
That works.
Yeah.
Other than Cape Canaveral and Cape,
yeah,
Cape Cod, and they're all capes. This worked better.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I wish I'd done.
The idea that this takes me way. I'm sure everyone's going to say, "Hey, yeah, Kick-Ass. That's what that was." I'm going further back. I'm going to go back and visit John Ritter for a little bit here.
Okay.
You remember a movie called Hero at Large?
No, but okay. I know what you're talking about because I can picture him in his costume.
Yeah, he was an actor, and there was a movie being shot in the town with Captain Avenger. And he was hired along with a dozen others to wear the costume around town, pass out flyers, and drum up publicity for the movie. Well, he's in a 7-Eleven type place, and he's in the back of the store when the usual holdup shows up, and he doesn't know what to do, and he grabs like a can of something. I can't remember exactly how he does it, but I'm just going to say he grabbed a can of corn and flung it at the guy and knocked him out in the back of the head. Like, wow, I did that. And the store owner's like, "Thank you, Captain Avenger." And the word gets out, and he gets to where he likes doing it. So he starts wearing the costume off hours and listening to the police band radio and doing that whole thing. The scene I remember most is when he's in pursuit of something he heard on the police band, and the police haven't caught up to him yet. He's found the car, and they're starting to shoot at his car. He's like, "If they're going to start shooting real bullets, I'm going to quit."
John Ritter is awesome. So
I've got to get that on DVD. That's
you're right though. It does kind of capture a vibe that I feel is a lot more prevalent now than it was even back then. And that's just the idea that if you feel like the life you've got is kind of boring or not what you wanted when you were a kid, then you can kind of just create a new identity. And if you have friends who do it, then you can dress up. And it's amazing the amount of time that people will put into building costumes for something like MegaCon or San Diego. And I when I was thinking this idea through, I was really just trying to capture this thought of how can a person reinvent themselves in a way that is true to what they want, but also still grounded in reality. And I know I have, like I said, light level superpowers in the book, but I still really try to hold on to that. You know, someone who feels that they really want to help people, and the ways that are available to them are not something that they really are compelled by. So they have to create their own way of doing it. And I see more and more of this. And I mean, there are so many different media platforms where people are trying to express who they really feel they are. It's interesting to, I think, also explore the idea of what if you weren't just creating a digital presence of yourself, but you could actually kind of do it in real life. I just think that's a really interesting idea. And I wanted to see where these guys took it, and we'll see.
Yeah, one of the first fiction short stories I had published professionally, like they paid me money for it. It took me and my wife out to McDonald's, and I still had to kick in, but I got paid. Was this thing called The Secret Origin of Jerry, and it was exactly this guy who's like, why isn't anybody doing this? I want to do this, and he goes up against the mundane logistics of it. He can't have a car to drive around in because he'd have to have plates, and that means it had to be registered, because if you don't have plates, you get pulled over. And how does the Batmobile get around something like that? He can't get too many weapons. He's got to pay cash. The Army surplus store gives him things like a belt to carry them in, but what's he going to put in there? You can't just go on the internet and buy gas grenades. So he's carrying Tylenol and Snap and Pops and just distracting things and helping things. And of course, he spends most of his time sitting on the rooftop of the A&P watching the gas station across the street for somebody to rob it.
Right.
Been 3 nights in a row, and the town's been crime free. And it's just that kind of thing. He talks about the making of the symbol and how it's almost symmetrical the way he cut it, because his hands, he did the best he could, sewed the felt onto the tank top he was wearing. He dies in the end. He does not do well against a guy with a gun, but it was a fun exploration of that idea, because I want to say that the story was actually going to end. I didn't write the full ending, but the story was going to end with him being on the news, and people all over his death. This man in a costume shot down by a gunman behind a grocery store, and just enough people seeing it, most of them going, "That poor idiot," and a couple going, "He's onto something," and just spreading the virus of the idea around.
Yeah, exactly. And the truth is, everyone is looking for a way to be inspired. I think this is true of most people. A lot of, the standard, there's not very many people who, especially the older they get, are truly satisfied with where they wound up in life. And if they could find a way to course correct, maybe they would. Odds are they would probably just think about it and then think, I missed my chance and I've got my Netflix and I guess that'll have to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, any fiction story that anyone reads that's worth anything is about the one person who says, actually, no, I'm tired of Netflix. I think I will actually do this thing that I have wanted, and I'm just going to do it. So
especially, you know, in a, and I don't know that our era is any more unique than any other era. If I were to time travel back 10 years at a time and ask somebody the same question, I'd probably get the same answer. But in an era where trust in authority is at what feels like an all-time low, you've got defund the police. I just saw this story today about an officer who was arrested because every time he pulled somebody over, he was planting meth in their car and sending them to jail.
Wow.
You know, so, you know, things like this, like, well, we can't trust the authority. We have to be, you know, our own 911. Yes, I did see that, Mike. It is, it would not be. They're two different companies. So Capernaum's nowhere near Hub City.
Sorry.
Yeah, Charlton and Silverline, you're never the twain meet. Although Charlton did have some cool characters when they were still low level before Alan Moore really ramped them up.
Okay.
So how big is the story of CAPETOWN here? We're looking at some of the internal pages, but I mean, as a story arc.
As a story arc, we are going to do 4 issues, and that will be a definitive answer. I do a second book called Kalis for Silverline, which is more of a sci-fi themed book. That one will run for several issues before we end it, and I'm not even sure how far we're going to get. This one, we're going to cap it off at 4. By the 4th issue, you will know everything you need to know about the mystery and how it's solved and what's the status quo. So
yeah. And the thing about Silverline that separates them from Marvel and DC, it's not the money, although it's the money, is that they're all individual universes. There's, you know, CAPETOWN's not set along the same coast as the military base that Kalis is revolving around in the first issue. You know, a rift doesn't open up and the Trumps spill in.
Although you have an idea for that, if I recall.
I have an idea for that. I stand ready to take the call, Roland. Anytime you want to talk to me, we'll make the Silverline saga happen. But it's gonna be 4, and then it's done. Like
it's done. I mean, it's a very. I find it to be a very compelling world. If I ever want to do another CAPETOWN story, I'm sure there's many of them. And
you know, Kurt Busiek went pretty far with an idea.
Exactly.
Like that.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, how many different Astro City books were there? And it's just because it was a fun idea, and he was able to really explore different corners of it. And hey, who knows?
One of my favorite scenes, not from Astro City, but from Tranquility, which was a retirement village for superheroes.
Okay.
Gail Simone wrote that one, and there was this one geezer, and all he did all day long was walk around. He'd check out different dictionaries, and he was reading them out loud because he was a Captain Marvel like character with a magic word. But of course, you know, he kept getting older and older, and you know, more forgetful, and he's forgotten his word. So,
you know, you told me that story before. Did he ever find the word?
I don't know. I don't know if he did or not.
That's bothered me. You told me that story. I'm like, wow, what a poor guy. I wonder if he ever found the word.
You know, if he did, I'm thinking, you know, if I were Billy Batson in the first place, why would I ever change back?
Yeah. Well, I just picture this guy reading every word in the dictionary, and then he's like, Temetry, tuberculosis. The word was tuberculosis?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I figured it was more of a, you know, he'd get to like, you know, zoophyte, Zizix. It's not in there. Racin, Fracin, Fuliac, and boom. Like, oh, it was.
That's
a
true.
Yosemite Sam kind of thing that he had there.
It's a comic book curse word. Yes.
Yes. He had to say, oh, when my son was, my son reads the Archie comics. He's 15 now, but he read tons of Archie comics, and he'd read, you know, he wasn't into superheroes, although Superman and Flash were his favorites, he would say. Couldn't quite figure that out. But when he would get mad, he'd be like 7 years old, 8 years old. And he'd just ball up his little fist and he'd say, $##*. I was like, what? He's like, that's what they say when they're mad in the comics. Like, that's right. That's what they say. Exclamation point.
That's great. That won't get anyone in trouble at school.
That's right. It won't. If he just says that, they're like, he's saying punctuation marks when he gets angry. What's up with that? So is there Silverline always has original art listed for their books. Is CAPETOWN a part of this set? Because there's everything's here that you've ever done.
I'm not sure. Roland has communicated with my artists. Unfortunately, they're both in Argentina, which is a difficult place to send and receive FedEx packages, as both Roland and they have discovered. So it's kind of an ongoing situation that has not really resolved. So
yeah,
I'm not certain if there'll be original art.
It's nice that the world is now open the way it is electronically to get art from people, but it does present other problems and physical art's the way it is. No, Mike, it went right over my head. I'm sorry. I thought it was like a real question. I'm like, what? No.
You know what? I should just also say that is what's true of Kalis. Actually, my artists are in Argentina for Kalis. For CAPETOWN, it's actually Justin Franklin. He lives here in the States. Yeah, I imagine that it'll be a lot easier to get original art for CAPETOWN. So,
and that's assuming he does original art. So many people do digital. You can't sell digital, but you can, just not as original art. As with all the Silverline books so far that I've seen, you got a T-shirt. Did they give you one yet? I mean, you get comped a shirt, I hope.
I don't think I get comped a shirt, but I'm happy to spring for one. It's pretty cool to be wearing a T-shirt and people are like, CAPETOWN, what's that? And you're like, that's the comic book I write. And they say, wow, really? Let me buy all your groceries and your coffee and dinner too. So
I've never met a comic book artist before. No, I'm the writer. Oh, so you don't draw.
That's even better. Have you done anything I've ever heard of? No.
No.
Have you ever heard of Spider-Man? Yeah, I've heard of Spider-Man too.
I didn't do him. You remind me of a tale Neil Gaiman told when he was doing the tour for American Gods. He was on a plane and he's like, and you got the two old ladies next to him who are they're trying to be nice. And the way they're trying to be nice is talking his ear off the whole trip. And like, so what do you do? And he's like, well, I'm a writer. And in typical, supportive but joking fashion, they say, oh, a writer. Well, when are you going to be on the New York Times bestseller list? And he's like, last week. And it's like, it went all uphill from there. Cause like, wait, you're like a real writer now. Hadn't heard of him, but he got their attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, the shirts are done right, because I see shirts get done on campaigns, not from Silverline, where it's like, look, there's my character. Doesn't my character look cool? I'm like, yeah, your character looks great. Where's the name of the book? Because people can't Google the look of your character. They can Google the name of your book if they see it. They're like, oh, that guy's wearing something that says CAPETOWN on it with a Silverline. CAPETOWN, Silverline. Oh, it's a comic book series. Bookmark this, so when I get home, I can see if I want to buy it.
Yeah, it is pretty cool, and I suppose also kind of a walking advertisement, which I'm happy to do. It's America, so
absolutely, and it's wonderful that we live in a fandom kind of environment where people will pay you for the opportunity to advertise for you.
Yeah. You know what? And if anyone wants to pay me for that, I encourage them to do so with my earliest opportunity, which is right now. So
here's $20. Let me wear a shirt that has your imprint on it, so that people look you up. And I'll get nothing out of it but a cool shirt. with it being a 4-issue miniseries, I don't know what else to ask about this because I just want to read it now. Is all I want to.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So was it done?
It's done. That is another pretty cool thing about Silverline is Silverline never does a Kickstarter for a book that isn't already to go as soon as it's over with. So I know a lot of people doing crowdfunding. You're kind of taking a risk by plunking your money down and wondering if you'll ever actually get what you signed up for, but you will always get it if you get a Silverline book.
So these books have kind of been sitting in boxes then since November?
Actually, they will get printed as soon as we have an
printed.
order. So,
Okay.
yeah. But, yeah, actually, I have yet to see one published. So that'll be kind of a fun day for me is when I get
So with the hurricane delay from back in November till now, does that mean that the gap for the stopgap between issues 2, 3, and 4, are they closer to being done, or were they all 4 done?
They're not all 4 done. I think Justin is working on the 2nd issue right now, and because of the way Silverline staggers out their books, it probably wouldn't be available for a few months anyway, just because of the other books that we're rolling out. But it will happen. So if people are afraid that we're going to get tired and just take I'm sure millions of dollars we'll make on this Kickstarter and go straight to the Bahamas.
You're only $998,000 away from it right now.
Yes, exactly. Very close. And I have a good feeling about this one. But we will finish this series. The very thought of not letting people find out what happened to all the missing heroes, I've got something cooking that I've never actually seen in comics before. Not to say it hasn't been done, but I haven't seen it, so I'm actually excited to present it to everybody else. So,
well, I'm in. I am in for the ride on this one. You had me at Kalis, so I'm in on the ride for that one. And folks, if you haven't read Kalis, you need to look that up. Kayless. It's part Starman, part I don't know what, but it's it's there's no spiders from Mars in it, but it's very, very intriguing. It's a man shot into space, disappears, comes back years later, and all hell erupts in the government and the military with what he's bringing back to tell them. So get that, and of course get CAPETOWN. If you're if you're a Cape fan like me, again, I've been reading comics since I was 4 years old, Brent. They printed them in the town and where I grew up, Sparta, Illinois. They were all there, so it was like they were just laying around friends' houses because their parents were bringing home the print overruns like day old donuts.
Oh, that sounds like a great way to live.
It was, and I was reading before kindergarten, and nobody knew that I could read, and I didn't tell anybody because I didn't know anybody couldn't read. It was
that's awesome.
You look at words and you make things in your head.
When I read comics, I just got flack from my parents who thought that I was rotting my brain. But now we all know literacy can happen because of comics. And the fact that I'm writing comics now, I feel like it's vengeance, but it's not really true. I have a good relationship with my mom. My dad passed away, but we had a great relationship too. So
good. Yeah, folks, comic books. Get your kids reading comic books if they're having trouble reading, if they're reluctant to read. The comic activates, I'm going to say all 3 sections of your brain, although I know it's only in 2. But you've got the words that are interacting with the left side of your brain. You got the art, which is interacting with the right. Both hemispheres going at one time, which no other medium can do. And then you got that little blank spot in between the panels, and that's engaging the imagination, which is making you bridge that gap. So you're thinking logically, creatively, and imaginatively, all at the same time to get a story into you. What a fun way to make your brain exercise. Brent, thank you so much for coming back. You didn't have to do that.
No, my pleasure, RJ, and thanks for having me on. I love talking about this stuff.
Any time at all, we're glad to have you. Folks in the chat, check out the Kickstarter. Hit the link below here. Even on the replay, it's still there. It's got 10 days to go. It needs another. This is Kickstarter. There is no variable funding goal here like there is on Indiegogo. So they need another $415. And you've got it. Check under the couch cushions. I know it's there. Go out there and throw money at this thing. Thank you for showing up for the show, folks. We don't have one if you're not there to watch us. We're just a podcast falling in the woods. And, of course, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night, everybody.